Hi, and welcome to Grip's Garage. You always need to be prepared as a grip, but it's important to know how prepared to be. We have put together some of the bare essentials of tools that you need, but we're also going to go over some of the things that will make you a more competent and capable grip as well.
There's like several levels to this, the way of like the amount of tools that you'll expect it to have on you on set at all times. When you're starting out, people will know that you're starting out. They won't expect you to have like a gigantic tool list. So there's the bare essentials, the basics. Then there's the bare essentials plus some nice to haves. We're gonna go over some rigging specific tools, and then we'll just throw into the mix some special things we found over time of what helps us do our jobs better.
I think one of the most essential tools that you'll need as a grip is going to be your crescent wrench, your adjustable wrench, your monkey wrench, whatever you want to call it. A good adjustable wrench is worth its weight in gold. These become so useful. For our local union, IATSE 873, they require an either 8 or 10-inch wrench. This here is a 12. You can find many sizes. The most important thing is that you have an opening of at least 1.5 inches.
It's good to note that depending on what you're doing, you can get away with a smaller wrench, especially if you're carrying it on you at all times. Tools get heavy, tool belts get heavy. Your joints will thank you if you have a lighter package to carry around. So it's good to have a variety.
I have a nicer wrench than this. That's the same size that I like to keep in my chest rig or in my tool belt. It's very useful for just very small things, but say a handle on a light stand that's just a little too stuck, you can't get enough leverage on it with your fingers. Bust this out, takes care of the job quite quickly. The important thing to note about your crescent wrench is it's worth it to spend a little bit more to get one that's well made. This is one that's very cheaply made, and there is just so much slop in the jaws of it that this is essentially worthless as a wrench. This is a glorified paperweight, and I would so recommend you take a look, spend a couple extra dollars to get a good wrench.
Another very important yet underrepresented tool in the grip department, in my opinion, multibit screwdriver. I like this specific one from Klein Tools. You don't have to get this one, just as long as you have several different bits with different screw types. Very useful. Also, the big flathead with this extendable thing. This is also a very good pry bar, which is what you're honestly going to be doing the most with a screwdriver in the grip department.
And I bought this cheap one from Canadian Tire. It has a whole section of just different bit sizes, shafts. We have like Torx. I think there's even a single security Torx on here, which can be really useful for stuff that they don't want you unscrewing necessarily.
Also included in your basic toolkit, utility knife. It doesn't have to be one of these, but one of the advantages is usually on set people will have the exact same knife if you get one of these. So they'll have blades available if you don't have them on you, or you can help your fellow crew and give them a blade if they so need one.
You want to get the ones that have the lock on the blade. That'll prevent when you're slicing the blade like coming up or going in, any sort of thing where you don't have full control over the blade.
Yeah, you don't want to cut yourself.
Yeah. These utility knives with the smaller disposal blade are good too. You will just want to make sure you bring extra blades for yourself in case you do go through them.
Another toolkit essential is having a multi-tool. My tip is buy something you will be comfortable with possibly losing and dropping somewhere, because that's a good chance it'll happen. Having one of these on you at all times can make the difference between you getting the job done and continuing with production, or you have to go get more tools from your toolbox.
Make sure that yours is identifiable from everyone else's. These get handed off to people. Oh, I just need a pair of pliers real quick, and then they're never seen again. I think a follow-up from the multi-tool is probably pliers. I personally like a nice pair of needle nose pliers. These aren't actually recommended as part of the grip kit. However, if you're doing anything with wire or if you're making any like small repairs, pulling pins, anything like that, these become very useful. They also have the cutter in the middle of the jaws. Part of your grip kit requirements from our local union are to have a pair of lineman pliers. That's these with the blunt nose. These are for taking care of, well, just about anything really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They also make a good makeshift hammer.
Yes. And actually a hammer is an important thing that I don't think we actually have here.
My hot take is I have not needed to use a hammer
Neither have
on
I.
shooting grip.
This can be a hammer.
Every tool's a hammer.
This can be a hammer.
Yeah.
This can be a very small hammer.
In the wise words of Adam Savage, every tool's a hammer.
Yes.
Flashlight, honestly, self-explanatory. Most of the times you don't even need to have an actual flashlight on you. You can use your phone's flashlight. Having one of the clicky little ones is pretty nice. You can put these places to illuminate what you're doing. I like to get the magnetic ones that people used to work on cars. And you can like stick them onto a bunch of stuff on set or like tape them to a clamp if you need to. Useful. You need to see.
A nice headlamp can also be really useful, and oftentimes you don't have to spend much money on them. My personal headlamp is from Dollarama. I personally think that any of your flashlights should be battery powered. AAAs, AA's, something that you could stash a bunch of in your kit. It just makes it very easy to swap it, and now you have a full charge.
Now, another essential thing you'll be expected to have on your first day on set, work gloves. Any sort of work glove will do. You don't need anything fancy. You can get them from the dollar store as well. I recommend mechanic gloves because they're designed to give you a lot of grip, a lot of protection from bashing your knuckles against things. They also sometimes have like warmer versions of them for us here in the winter. They also have sweat pads included in them, which is really nice when you're out in the summer and in the middle of a runway. Ask me how I know. The other thing is these will probably last way longer than any other pair of like cheap work gloves. So I've had these for 3 years at this point and they're still holding strong. So that is the absolute basics of tools that you will be expected to have on you on your first day on set as a grip. There's one more important part, and it's how do you carry those specific tools. I just have this little caddy thing with a belt clip that you can just throw all your things into. You can usually clip my gloves to the side of it as well. And you just throw it on your belt and you're good to go. I usually keep this on me at all times on set. The bigger toolkit stays in the bag.
Yeah. Another option is something like this chest rig. Now this, I think, honestly is more for a very light run and gun type situation. I would only really use this as my like go-to for like a shooting call. If you're on a rigging call, you would probably want a hip pack. You would probably want to even take more tools with you. But this is just very good for stashing a couple things inside here. You can do your multi-tool, your utility knife, put your radio in here. That way it's not hanging off your belt or anything. Pretty good, useful. If you're in a very tight area, this can sometimes be nice because you're a little bit more aware of where you have tools and stuff protruding. If you're in a house that has very nice painted door frames and you don't mind that this is sticking out of the end of your tool pouch, you can damage people's paint and they won't be very happy.
Bless the locations department.
Bless them. Bless their bountiful hearts.
These are, in addition to the basic tools that we just showed you, some really nice to-haves that when you're a little bit more seasoned of a grip, that'll make your life a lot easier. I want to start with your tape holder. Usually on union shows, you won't have to use your own personal tape. They'll usually give you a roll of tape, like just for your convenience. What I like to do is I use a dog collar to clip. You can clip several different rolls of tape to it and then clip it shut. Then you just put a carabiner on it and clip it to your belt. Next, this one's a weird one that is kind of very highly specific. Adjustable channel lock pliers, but these are like Knipex clones where you can click a button and then they'll automatically lock and adjust to a different bolt size. These are fantastically useful for like small bolts, like C-stand knuckles that are like too stuck. These are also great for broken bolts if you ever run into that. They're also really great for bending sheet metal. I really like these, but this is a very me-specific tool. We mentioned it before, but headlamp. This is a cheap one from Canadian Tire, I think. Adjustable. One tip, more than tip, is just a thing that I do on set, and I've seen many people do on set. You can wear this on your head, but you will be blinding your crewmates wherever you look at. What I like to do is I like to hang this around my neck, and it'll still be pointing towards where I'm looking at and illuminating what I'm doing, but it won't be like pointing directly at my like crew and blinding them. There's ones that do like a red light, but I personally don't like that. Hex keys. I have these Amazon basic sets from every size. If I had to buy these again, I would honestly go with like the separate Allen key like sets where you get like multiple Allen keys in one piece of plastic, because these they're very chunky and they get in the way when you're trying to like do something, especially in tight spaces. But these are great in a pinch. They're also great for the camera team to steal them from you. Nice to have. 3/8 ratchet wrench with a 5/16 bit. This is the size, at least here in Canada, that we use for pipe. So the grub screws on pipe joinery are this size. One thing that is in the union requirements, but most people usually don't have, is rain gear. This is just like a poncho, like a long poncho that you can just throw on if it starts raining. You don't want to be wet on set. Not fun.
Yeah. Additionally, if you want to pack something like an extra pair of socks, possibly an extra t-shirt, pair of underwear even, when it is very warm and you're next to a bunch of tungstens and there's no AC because sound department said it was too loud, it will become so swampy and you will not enjoy it, and neither will the people around you. So another stick of deodorant might also be a good backup.
Fully agreed. Sound stages are big boxes of metal. They get very warm in the summer.
Another thing that can be useful to bring around but isn't necessarily your responsibility on most sets is some ratchet straps. This is an endless ratchet strap, meaning that there's no metal hooks and this is all one contained part. But having a two-part ratchet strap, different types of ratchet straps as well, can be very useful for quickly lashing stuff down. Lashing stuff together just to transport sometimes is really useful, especially if you're going over like a very rough driveway to get to the grip truck. You have a bunch of cases. Really useful to just hold things together. Depending on your set, if it's a rigging call and it's unionized, they'll most likely be provided to you by the company. However, if you're on like an indie, it's useful just to tuck a couple of these away because you might need it.
Moving on from mostly shooting grip things, these are the absolute basics in addition to all the tools we just showed for a rigging call, a rigging grip call. As I said before, pipe wrench, very useful. And there's like several different sizes of sockets that you should have on a 1/2 inch drive wrench. These are different depending on what area you are, so I would consult your local either like union or your local just general grip people that might know. In Canada, we have 13/16 sockets for pipe clamps and it's like smaller rigging stuff, 7/8 for bigger pipe clamps, and 15/16 are truss bolts. I like to have 2 1/2 inch drive wrenches to like either go on both sides of a bolt to be able to like loosen or tighten, and also having them hanging off of you if you need to use one or the other instead of having to go switch sockets every like 5 minutes, because more often than not you'll have like all the different types of bolts on whatever you're working on at the same time. You can a lot of the times get away with just having a big adjustable wrench. However, key rigging grips and certain people are highly professional and they don't want to mar or round up bolts by using one of these, so they prefer when you have a socket.
This crescent wrench will also be a lot more fatiguing throughout the day to try and use for all of the like rigging work you'll do. You're gonna get just like your arm will be so much more tired. You're gonna be making so much more movements. You might as well spend the couple extra dollars to invest in a decent set of ratcheting wrenches that will just make your life so much easier.
You can also use them to fix your car.
And other things.
And other things, indeed.
Not always necessary, but I find sometimes useful is a pair of vice grips. Sometimes you just need to hold two things together or hold something stationary for you to put a bolt in, put some screws in. These can also work really good, just like the channel locks, for removing stuck bolts, pulling screws or nails out of stuff. Pretty useful.
These are just the bare minimums that'll get you through it. Rigging requires an entire truck full of tools to get done because we're basically going and getting the production ready for the shooting crew to come in and do their job. So, how do you get all of this crap and carry it with you to set? Personally, I just have one of these little handbags for when I'm doing shooting calls. I throw my little hip pack in this as well, so I can carry it all together and everything's in its own place and I don't lose things. And this is what I'll often take with me. However, what I found out and that I really like how it's been working out so far is I got one of these bootleg Pelican cases from Canadian Tire. You can also just get a regular Pelican case if you feel like it, where I can throw all the things that I need, have the specific tools in its tool bag, and then I can throw it all together, close it up, and roll it with me to set. Wheels are very important. This is a lot of weight. If you carry it all in your back, you're gonna screw your spine over. What I find the advantage of this is everybody has that like rolling husky toolbox or something similar like that. People get confused of like whose bag is whose on set sometimes. So this is like it's different, it looks different, it's not really the same thing that everybody has. But by far the most useful thing about it is that it's waterproof. So oftentimes I'll just leave this outside next to the truck and like get wet. People throw dirt around and all my tools or anything that I feel like needs to be safe I can throw in here. It's also kind of indestructible, so you can just drag it around and throw it and nothing bad will happen to your tools.
So that was a really good way to do it, and this is the exact opposite. Now, sometimes you just need to get somewhere and you need to carry your stuff, but you don't necessarily need a lot of it. Sometimes you're doing a shooting call where you know the most you'll probably need that day is your gloves and maybe a multi-tool. So you bring the bare essentials. Now, there are going to be a lot of flaws with this system compared to what Rin showed. This has no closure at the top. This is not waterproof. This will get you laughed at by a grip who has years of experience more than years that you have lived. So, if you are going to do this, just be prepared that it is a compromise. Now, in here, I prefer to have it all ready to go in its separate compartments, tool pouch, or I'll have everything ready in my chest rig. Another thing that I like to carry is a tool roll. Sometimes I am going to need a couple of tools and it's really easy to just grab this entire thing, bring it to where I'm working, unbuckle it, and then lay out everything that I have. So this is an option. It's a stepping stone. Go with what Rin did. It's a much better, proper way to do it.
So the more you do this and the more you grow as a grip, the more tools you're going to end up acquiring. And if you're keying for a production, if you're like key staff, you're going to be expected to not only have all these tools, but oftentimes you will be expected to be providing them to your crew. A lot of key grips, key rigging grips have their own deals with, like, they'll bring their own 10-ton truck that they own to be used on production. They'll get paid extra for that. Kind of as a stepping stone of that, like, I have a rolling toolbox that I bring to set if I need to bring more tools than what I usually do. Like if I'm doing a rigging call that requires like a bit more involvement, or on the electric side of things, a lot of the time I'm doing set wiring that requires a lot of like electronics tools like soldering and like small, like you will be setting up a station in studio to work. So having a rolling toolbox where you can throw what you usually bring with you as well as a specific kit is very useful. But yeah, as you grow, you'll need more tools. This is kind of a good point to start at. It's also good to remind ourselves that yes, tools might be expensive, but if you're in the grip department, chances are you're handy, you like to work with your hands. So those tools can also be used to fix other things. Those tools can also be an investment into getting things done that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do without them.
Tools. At least you're not spending your money on drugs.
We hope you learned something from this video, and we hope you'll join us for the next one,
Where we might use some of these tools on a particular vehicle.
Ooh.